But I didn't see it, of course, because it doesn't roll up. Oh my God. That was my fault. I had everything set, but one little slider I didn't set. Let me start over. How's that? And I'll go on and I will cut it off. Oh my. Maybe someday I'll have somebody working all these controls for me. I won't have to do it all myself and forget. I thought I had everything set up. Oh dear me. Hello everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Approximately 7 minutes late. I will trim this off before. Oh my. Well, at any rate, I was talking about the divine masculine. I was going off on it quite eloquently, actually, but here we are. I was musing that I woke up this morning. I didn't even think about it until somebody said Happy Father's Day to me today. Those of you who have girls for daughters will no doubt have been honored immediately as the day arrives. But when you have sons, it's not quite like that. You're kind of an afterthought, especially if they have kids. In which case, dad is kind of an afterthought. But that's the way it's supposed to be, right? There's an old saying that the son's job is to kill his father, and it's the father's job to let him. Now, obviously, that can sound harsh. That's a very masculine, kind of Zen-like comment, But the reality is that in every man, in order for the boy to become a man, he must step out of his father's shadow and into his own, even if that means making huge mistakes, stupid mistakes. And one of the tragedies that's happened over the last couple of 100 years is this attempt to simply get the child to conform to the same rules and tribal laws as the father did, to force a conforming rather than a voluntary submission that maintains individual integrity, but also recognizes one's role within the tribe. The divine masculine just points to the protective nature of being, the sustaining nature of being, as opposed to the creative nature of being, something coming out of nothing, which would be the feminine. As we look around our world, we can see the devastation that this absence of genuine initiation of boyhood into manhood, the effect that it's had. The world is run by basically boys in men's bodies who don't protect and nurture. They exploit, they plunder, they pillage, they use everything, they manipulate. There's nothing of masculine qualities. There's nothing of the essential masculine characteristic of the protector. As Joseph Campbell put so beautifully, he said, women are life, men are the protectors of life. And I think that's just kind of the beautiful way of putting it. Now, ultimately, the masculine and the feminine are simply two aspects of one transcendent essence that is beyond all categorizations. It cannot be seen, it cannot be known, it cannot be conceptualized. Nothing can be thought until it appears as two. And then the mistake we make is that we think that the two are separate rather than two faces on the same coin, two aspects of the same essence. And that sense of that sense of being two, right, is where all of the trouble arises. Is now I identify more so strongly with one, and the more I do, the less of the other will be there. And beautifully expressed in the yin-yang symbol, right? Where it's pure white, but yet in the middle of the pure white is the dot of black, and where it's pure black, yet in the middle is the dot of pure white. It is never one or the other. The pure simply cannot be seen, cannot be spoken, cannot be known. Just like light, right? There's an enormous amount of light here, but you only see what the colors that are reflected by the background of the shirt, the skin, my hair and the like. But yet this what apparently empty space in between me and the camera is in fact filled with light. I have 4 lights around me right now, but you can't see it, right? Because in its wholeness, light is invisible. In its wholeness, being is completely unknowable. It cannot even be thought, right? And yet, this is what you are. This is who you really are. The who, in non-dual inquiry, that question gets asked, who am I? Who am I really? And the only reason that's difficult is because we're so used to looking for the answer as something conceptual, some idea, some form that we can point to. And of course, our whole life we've spent identifying with some form, and then suffering as a consequence, and wondering where the suffering's coming from, right? Well, it's coming from the identification with the form. When you identify with the formless, with the wholeness of light, and not just a particular color that happens to be reflected in the moment, something opens up inside. The fullness of you becomes available. That masculine energy is tempered by the feminine gentleness, the wisdom that is inherent in the self manifests itself as masculine wisdom and feminine wisdom. The nurturing love that is the self manifests itself as the protective nature of men and the nurturing nature of women. You are the divine, right? It's not a state you attain to. It's not something that you get to. It's not a place. It's not a state of mind. It's not even a state of being. It is being. It is what you are. It is what's manifesting itself right now. And if your form happens to be masculine, well, okay. If it happens to be feminine, okay. That's just how it's appearing. That which is behind it, underlying it, that which is causing that appearance to appear, is not limited to the particular qualities that are manifest in a particular form. As a matter of fact, if all those qualities in their wholeness, there can be no form. It's like light has to hold back some of it so you can see. If it doesn't hold some of it back, like all the light in between my face and the camera, which is all the same light that you see around, but cannot be seen. Without that capacity for one part to be held back and the other to be expressed, there would be no form, there would be no being, there would be no life. There'd be no dance, no music, no art, no love, no expression of love. All the gods and goddesses are metaphors for yourself. All of them, bar none. The Greek gods, the Roman gods, the Egyptian gods, the Celtic gods, the ones we call pagan, or nature gods, the gods of Aboriginal They're all you. They are all you projecting onto the world the beingness and selfness that is you. The mission of non-dual inquiry and of satsang is to bring your attention to the essence, to know yourself as the unknowable, which means just the beingness of yourself without any reference to form, at which point the form becomes imbued, it becomes liberated from its restrictions, right, that are imposed. This form is this, and this form is that. The man should be like this, the woman should be like that. Recognizing that the essence that's manifesting is neither and both, liberates both for all qualities to be expressed. And when they're expressed, through the male body, they'll look one way. When they're expressed through the female body, they'll look another way. Just like a song played on a piano sounds different than a song played on a guitar or sung a cappella. Same song, same song. Just the way it comes across, the way it comes through, will vary simply on the form, but the essence remains the same. The song remains the same. So anyway, after a false start, I scrolled down and noticed, oh my God, everybody's cheaping. But unfortunately, nobody can, it scrolls off the bottom, there's nothing I can do. So anyway, for the second time, welcome to Satsang, everybody. It's really great to be here. And forgive my casual dress. I was, right before Satsang, I took about an hour to, such a beautiful sunny day, as you can see. I was up on the roof, but it's only like 65. There's this incredibly cool breeze. I live, from my roof I can actually see Elliott Bay. I'm like a block away. So I like to sit up there and meditate, and I'll eat, and so I was just kind of up there, just being quiet for a bit before Satsang. So forgive me for being casual, for not dressing for the occasion. But it's Father's Day. I'm allowed to. I can do what I damn well please. You're lucky I didn't show up in a bathrobe. So hello everyone. hello. Welcome to Satsang. Let me scroll through here real quick. More sense. Let's see. Faith. Hello, Faith. Hello, my sheik, my spiritual tribe. Today I watched one of your tapping videos. It was about that we don't need to hate our circumstances to change them. I love you, Baba. GP, please pray for me. My granddaughter calls me Baba, too. It just kind of came out of her. She doesn't know it has an actual meaning. She didn't know it actually does mean father and another. Actually, in Sanskrit, that's what it means, I think. But she just started calling me that because she couldn't say grandpa when she was very, very little. So, yes, there is this idea that if somehow I'm just content where I am, there won't be any energy for change. And it's a false belief. We can't help but change. Change is the nature of life itself. It's constantly refreshing itself, turning itself over and over and over and over again. The plants behind me, they never stop growing. They don't just get to a point and go, boy, I'm really tired of being this shape. I really wish I could be something else. There's none of that discontent there. That is all a creation of the mind. You cannot stop the natural growth. When you recognize that you are the essential out of which everything is growing, and the cosmic DNA that is being manifested in every single form, then you let go of trying to force circumstances to change. You find contentment not in the circumstance, but in you. And that's the energy that when circumstances just aren't working, you know it. Right? You don't fight them, you don't hate them, but the recognition that they're no longer adequate, is the energy that will eventually transform them if you don't cling to the change. If instead you simply be with the wisdom that is indicating it's time. That same wisdom will open the door to the actual change. Sorry about the sound. I got ice in my stuff here. Deep green today. So thank you, Faith. And yes, I pray for you. Roberto. GP, I recently realized I talk too much about me and my problems that make my life too dense. It made me not be too interested in others' lives. I wonder if this is part of the process. I meant I was not really communicating with others both ways, but only one way. Beautiful. Beautiful. One must see these things. The seeing of it is the beginning of the end of it. Right? And yes, it's what happens. We can get very self-absorbed, thinking I can't have a relationship, I can't really be present with anyone until all my problems are solved. And it's never the case. That's always a false assumption. The ego wants to keep us in our problems. So it has us talking about the problems, constantly looking for solutions. Right? And this is how we get on the self-help treadmill, where forever the next thing that's going to be the magic bullet, and it isn't. Because for the point of view of the ego, it's not looking for an answer. It doesn't want an answer. It wants problems, right? It likes problems. It thrives on problems. The ego thrives on conflict. No conflict, no ego. The ego creates it. And therefore, it just wants to talk about its problems. And, God, these problems I have, and I don't have any solution. I'm trying so hard. All of which is true. But we don't recognize who the real culprit is. And just the realization that, Jesus, I talk about myself all the time. I'm not really listening to others. Huh. Can you just feel the openness of that, right? And to be able to admit that to yourself. Not only that, you're admitting it to all of us. It's like, that's courageous, right? That shows that you are winning. You are winning the battle with the ego. Because once you see it, the ego has to operate in the shadows. It can't operate up front. Say, hi, I'm the ego and I'm here to fuck up your life. It can't. It won't do that, right? It's always suggestive and, this be a good idea. And things like, it's always in the shadows. It's always the manipulator. It is the seducer. And so it's always suggesting and suggesting. But once you see it, you go, oh, I've been duped. The ego is a carnival pitchman. He's just inviting me into the freak show. I don't want to see the freak show. So the act of seeing it is everything. You probably heard me say this a million times. Awareness is the cure. You have to first become aware of something before it is possible for it to be transcended. If you're not aware of it, right, it's just going to continue. Consciousness and unconsciousness. With consciousness comes the recognition of the various kinds of distortions and self-absorptions of the egoic mind. It's a little uncomfortable, right? But it's the room in the house. You've been in this nice big house, but you've only lived in a few of the rooms, and finally after 20 years you decide to go into one of the other rooms, and oh my God, it smells, it stinks. There's dirt everywhere. There's rats running around, and but there you are, right? You clean it, air it out, get rid of the vermin, and before you know it, you have this other beautiful space to live in. So just flood it with light. Flood it with light and love. Very important when you discover things like that. Don't beat yourself. Oh my God, I've been so selfish. I'm such a horrible human being. That's the ego again, right? That's how it will try to perpetuate itself by now making you feel so guilty about what you did before, and oh God, right? It's like, this is its game. This is how it does it. It's got to keep you in the position that you're just never quite good enough. Trying, but not good enough. You are good enough. Trust that the revelation of, even when it's a dirty room, that the only reason you've seen a dirty room is you've walked into it and you've turned on the light. And you are the light. Thank you, Roberto. Beautiful. Hello, Playan. Oops, sorry, Faith. Didn't mean to put that up there. Playan, hello from Sweden. Good to see you. Suzanne, hi, G. The act of giving unconditional love can heal one's wounds? As a question. The only thing that's ever healed anything is unconditional love. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. My experience has been that when we actually do get to unconditional love, which means first you have to understand what it is, that it all by itself creates the environment in which all healing takes place. All of our wounds, all of our traumas, all of the patterns that accumulated over the years have all been the energetic reaction to the environment of danger. And the fundamental danger being an existential one. It's not safe to be yourself. It's not safe to be you. And therefore, but you can't help but be you, right? Because you're not somebody else. You are you. And so to be yourself becomes dangerous, but you can't not be yourself. You can just see the kind of existential crisis that puts you in. And the very clever and creative way the whole energy system uses to get past that, to keep that from killing you, is that it suppresses the real you and creates a false version of you to present to the environment, and then causes you to forget that it's the false version. You identify it as yourself, and the ruse is complete. Right? But of course, there's a discomfort in you. Right? It's not adequate, right? It's clothes that don't really fit, and of course they're not going to fit. They're never going to fit. They were a strategy used to keep you alive. They're not the strategy for you to thrive, to live fully and abundantly. So, what does it take in order for those wounds to be healed, for that false self to be dissolved and the real self to come out of the basement? Well, what caused it to go in the basement and the false self or the ego to be created was danger. It was not safe to be yourself. Well, what's the cure? It's got to become safe to be yourself, period. If it becomes safe to be yourself, the energy system, being the adaptable thing it is, won't need any encouragement. It's simply recognizing the safe state goes, it's safe, and begins to drop the defensive patterns, the defensive mechanisms that are keeping you suppressed. Those defensive mechanisms are the false self. It is the ego. And so the ego is crumbling with it. Remember, the ego is not a thing. It's a word we have for the functioning of the nervous system simulating a real person. And then we project a sense of self on that and think, I am that. Right? So what is dissolving are all of the various patterns and responses and conditionings that make up what we call the ego. And as they dissolve, the real you begins to appear. What is unconditional love then? Well, it is total self-acceptance. It is acceptance of things as they are right now. Right? For most, love means unconditional love will be, I can unconditionally love myself when I'm lovable, right? But that's not unconditional. That's conditional love, right? When X, Y, and Z are fulfilled, then I am lovable. And this is the challenge, because we have to first love even the defensive patterns that have created the self that isn't you. in a sense, loving the ego. Not as an entity, but recognizing that what it is simply the nature of life itself, in its most creative expression, to keep you alive long enough to wake up. Long enough to come to this moment where you could begin to dismantle it, and the real you could begin to emerge in this lifetime, and not have to wait another 10 before that sense of freedom and self-expression emerges. This lifetime right here. Unconditional love is the heart and soul of what I teach. It's the heart and soul of inner reconciliation, heart and soul of the yoga of allowing. The Just Allow It course is to simply start by simply allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling when you're feeling it, and recognize all the resistance to your own feelings. And all the way we've categorized those feelings. My negative emotions, I got to get rid of the negative emotions. They're getting in the way. I'd have an abundant life if it wasn't for these negative thoughts and negative emotions. And we end up creating an even bigger war with ourselves, trying to get rid of things that you can't get rid of. They're just you. They're just you, right? They're just part of this whole mechanism of life. And so to start with the unconditional acceptance of yourself the way you are right now. Yes, my whole life's a mess. I'm a mess. I've done nothing but stupid things, and I love myself anyway. That's unconditional love. And yes, it will heal your wounds. It will heal in the sense of healing that it will remove them. They're not even a scar remaining, because the wound is in fact, the trauma is in fact the nervous system simply compensating for the most difficult circumstance you could possibly imagine, which is, to be myself is dangerous, therefore I must become someone else, which feels totally inauthentic. You feel like a phony, you feel like it isn't me. That's because it's not. And most people live their entire life acting out somebody else, not realizing that they're doing it. So, does that answer it for you, Suzanne? Such a direct and beautiful question. Wonderful. Hello, Robbie from Romania. Lola. Hello there. I'm overworked and stressed out the whole day. My kids, all the household chores, and my husband overstrain me. I don't know what to do. It feels like I'm burned out. All right. Everybody just take a moment. Satsang can be intellectually very active. Let's all join with Lola here, because there's not a person here who hasn't felt it. Just feeling like too much to do and no reward when I do it, and no relief from it. Right? And let's see if we can find that space, kind of that internal spa day, you might say. Which means just for the moment, just put aside all thinking. And by that I mean simply put aside engaging with all the thoughts, like, I'm overstressed, I'm overworked and stressed out, not appreciated, right? Not that it's not true, but we're just going to set it aside. We're going to get it out of consciousness for a minute. We're not judging it, criticizing it, not saying or just accepting it. We're just going to be present, right, in the center with you, in this state of unconditional love and acceptance. And everybody do this. Whatever's gone on prior to this moment is simply gone, right? It's not here now, and so we don't have to bring it back and re-experience it through memory, because it's not here. In this moment, you're here. And let go of the future. your aspirations, your desires, what you'd like to be, what you'd like to see happen in the world. All of it. Just set it all aside. That all of the ideas about what this moment should be like, what I should get out of satsang, I wish I was more relaxed. All of that, just put it aside for a second. Just pick it up later. Right? And just don't engage. Don't try to force it away. This isn't like, power yoga, right? Trying to, I'm going to quiet my mind. It never works. You just notice it. And we're just choosing to not engage for a moment. Just kind of hop into the space in between. Just take a breath there. And we're just kind of not engaging with the past or the future, or even the present. Just what remains? What's here? Something's still here, isn't it? This is a very subtle one. Don't engage with this sense of what's next. Where's this leading to? Not even that. Just you, all by yourself. No other reference point. No place to go. Nothing to do. And what's here? There's something here, isn't there? Something that doesn't go away. Now, that something, is it stressed? Is it overworked? Not that those conditions don't happen, but we're looking at this. What's right here. This essential. The thing that could not be set aside. Emptied of all experience. Is it struggling? Does it have any questions? Is it coming and going? Did you create it? Are you having to maintain it? And how far away from you is it? This is you. This is the real you when it has been freed of all external references. Circumstances come and go. There'll be times where you will feel overworked. But even then, is this not here? Is this oasis ever absent? Yes, it can be covered up, but is ever gone? You ever disallowed access? Or is this actually you? This is the true self, the Para-Brahman, the ultimate. It's that simple. This is you. This is what all this spiritual stuff is about. This is the answer to the question, who am I? Okay. You're there, just you, but no extra references. So, take another deep breath, and those of you who had your eyes closed by, you can open them back up. I hope that helped you, Lola. And just having everybody do that with you in our little group meditation there. Thank you for bringing that to me. Annette Rockstar, hello, hello. What do you call a good relationship? Is this a joke? Is this a riddle? A good relationship is a relationship of mutual love, mutual respect, mutual and a shared commitment to the individual awakening and freedom of both, and creating an environment in which one can express that freedom, and also an environment in which all the crap from the past can come up, all the traumas can be healed, that there's a space there of mutual love and acceptance that creates the safe environment that can eventually heal all the childhood wounds. That to me would be a good relationship. That would be a quality relationship. Short answer, hopefully that nails it for you. Merck, hi everyone in GP, hiding out from the thunderstorms in Sweden. Hiking. So you had to seek shelter in the middle of a hike. And so I'm there with you in the thunderstorm. I like it. David Elaine, hello, my friends in Southeast England. Rebecca P, hi all, hi GP. Can true compassion be experienced in the mind? Is one only capable of true compassion after awakening? No, this is a big mistake. True compassion is your nature. It's happening all the time. The awakening is you realize it's your true nature and that it has been happening all the time. It's not something acquired. And this is the wonder of it. This is the great blessing of it. You realize it's been there the whole time. Every feeling of compassion you've ever had is the reality of your being. Because of our identification with the mind, right, we see ourselves as someone trying to be compassionate rather than the vehicle through which the natural compassion of life is manifesting itself. That's the transformation. So, no, compassion is not experienced in the mind. The mind cannot experience anything. The mind can't feel. It is a recording device. It is a device that compares and contrasts and registers and categorizes and abstracts and generalizes, which is useful. It's very useful, right? But it has no feeling. That's why people hide in their minds when they don't want to feel, right? I mean, it's kind of simple. If I don't want to feel myself, I'm just going to intellectualize stuff, and we live at a time that's very intellectualized. Why one of the first exercises I'll do, even in meditation, is bring somebody into their body. Just feel your body for a change. People say, I don't feel anything. I'm like, okay. That's the mind having so disconnected, disassociated from the body because of trauma that it doesn't want to feel. So no, in the mind, compassion can only be a word. It can be an idea. And if we're stuck in our mind, we're going to try to act out compassion. We're going to see it as a set of behaviors that somehow I act out and then I become a compassionate person. That's the mental approach. The truth of the matter is compassion, love is you. It is your nature. It is the nature of all being. And so, when you awaken, you realize that it is your nature, and it was your nature even when you didn't realize it. So even when you were asleep to it, it doesn't change the fact that that's what you were, and that's what you are, and that's what you will be. So every act of compassion you have ever done has been the reality of you manifesting even in the midst of the, right, shining through the clouds of our ignorance. This is the wondrous relief, the wondrous gift of grace, the wondrous liberation that there's no repenting of the sin. The sin is washed away. It's washed clean. You realize you were never that. You were always the very manifestation of love. and simultaneously love itself. The love that cannot be put into words, but can be expressed in an infinite number of ways. So, no, you are compassionate right now. There's compassion in the question. The very fact that you want to know is the presence of the compassion that is in your heart, that is your nature. Otherwise, you wouldn't be interested in it. You wouldn't care, right? But it is that sense of wanting to be more one with it. And of course, the ultimate oneness is to recognize you've never been two. It has always been you. You are love. It is not an act. It is not a set of behaviors. It is not a quality that somehow you express. It is you. Knowing that, everything you do will be love known. You will be love. Everything will shine with that love. And the actual nature of love itself will always remain infinitely beyond conception, beyond any individual expression of it. It will always be the infinite self, and that is what you are. And that is all the awakening is. That's all there is to it. That is what the awakening is. Oh, I just woke up. Oh my God, none of this was. I was always this way. I was always the happy person in the bed. I was never the guy in the dream. The one in the dream doesn't wake up, right? The dreamer wakes up from that. You're not who you think you are. You're not Rebecca. Rebecca was the name your parents gave to a little body that created because of a night of fun they had. Hopefully it was fun. Hopefully it was more than one night of it. But that's not who you are. You are the consciousness that is animating that form. And that the nature of that consciousness is love itself. That consciousness is the I am. That's God. That's beingness. That's Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. All of it, all rolled into one. Thank you, Rebecca. Hopefully that answered it for you. Let's see. Hello, Jay. Namaste, Julian. How can I produce a more conducive atmosphere for my spiritual work? Sadhana. Thanks a lot. Love this moment as it is. We drop the idea that there's some state to be attained. Enlightenment is not a state that is attained. This is the way we want to interpret it. A lot of spiritual practices see it as some kind of an achievement at some point. You do all these things and then enlightenment happens. If that were the case, enlightenment would just be yet another state. And it couldn't be eternal, could it? Because it didn't exist prior to this moment. If it is eternal, if it is infinite, if it is what is, it must be now. Therefore, it is not something that is acquired. It's simply something that gets recognized. Right? So look here. Look now. Like that brief little meditation I did before for Lola's benefit, right? That's you, right? Did you need a sadhana to get to that? Right? You just stay there, and it will do the sadhana. And the sadhana will not become an achievement, it will become simply the reality of you clearing away everything that isn't the reality of you. It will simply just be cleaning up the mess that's been left behind. And it'll happen all by itself. So it'll be a post-awakening sadhana rather than a pre-awakening sadhana. Sadhana that is coming from rather than one that is going to. So this is the spiritual atmosphere. When you sit to meditate, don't meditate as someone attempting to attain enlightenment. Meditate as the enlightened one. Meditate as the true self. Oh, because that's the fact. The awakening is you realize that it's always been the true self that's been meditating. There's never been a person. There's never been someone that has been striving. All of that has been an image in the mind. And so this will take your spiritual work out of the realm of process and procedure, right, which can take you lifetimes, and into the realm of being of this moment right now. I heard Mooji say it this morning. He says, what I'm showing you for most is the end of the process, but I'm not into that. I'm going to show you the end in the beginning. Let's start at the end. And what's the end? I am that. I already am that. And that space I brought you to during the meditation, just by letting go of the past, letting go of the future, letting go of the present ideas you have about yourself, and letting go of what's next, which is the sadhana, right? Even letting go of the sadhana, because the self doesn't require a sadhana to be the self, does it? And it now is simply, oh, I acknowledge I am that. Ramana Maharshi said the number one obstacle to enlightenment was believing you weren't. It's that thought, which is the thumb, one little finger blocking the sun. You are that. So be that, eat as that, sit in meditation as that, spiritual practice, whatever it is, as that, not to get to that, but as that now. How's that there, buddy, Julian? Thank you for that. Ava, hello Ava. Lisa, happy summer solstice. Hot, 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 hot. Hi, Liza. Yes, that's right. It is the summer solstice as well. Yeah. Wow, wonderful. And up here in Seattle, very long days. I mean, not like my friends over there in Sweden, but for here in the States, yeah, absolutely. Merck, any ideas on why we're so uncomfortable with stillness and silence? Is it just out of old habits of always internally narrating what's going on and wanting to know everything conceptually? Basically, that's it. It's just a habit. You know, we get used to thinking about stuff rather than actually being in the moment, rather than actually being in the silence. Notice that the silence is always there. But we've grown and all been trained to be very dependent upon the mind. Right? Everything's about the mind. Our whole idea of knowledge and understanding is intellectual. Oh, I know it, which means I can categorize it, I can compare it, I can describe it, I can go into great detail about it. And believe me, I got sucked into that trap. A bit of an amateur Bible scholar, and everything I learned, I just absorbed it, and I could just repeat it. Oh, he knows so much. Oh, I didn't know anything. It was a bunch of knowledge. In the transformed consciousness, that knowledge becomes useful, right? Because it allows me to have a bunch of different references with which to point. But if I didn't know where to point you, the references wouldn't be. They would be a dog chasing its tail, right? Just seeking more knowledge, and the seeking of knowledge is an addiction, right? And so consider it an addiction. We are addicted to thinking. Right? And the idea of just not thinking. Right? Do a little kung fu and be a dog. Right? Dogs don't think. They just are. They're just responding. A great exercise you can do is to just look at something, anything, any kind of object. Right? And just try to look at it without conceptualizing it. Instead of going, oh, that's a lid, and it's round, and it's a screw top for my, for my ball jar here, and it's got some stuff on the inside. It's dirty. I need to put all that aside, even the color gold, the shape, round, all of it, and just see if you can take in the actual direct experience of it. And you really see very quickly the experience as opposed to the conceptualization or the discursive mind, the describing of it. And of course, the experience always precedes the description, right? So the experience is real, the description is after the fact. The experience is direct, the description is conceptual. We don't experience concepts. We experience this. Right? Not a lid, right? Because that's just a word, right? In a different language, it wouldn't even be the same word, right? But we'd all be talking about exactly the same thing. There's a lovely story of an interfaith, interreligious meeting that took place. There was many people from different kinds of faith, some very esoteric, some kind of non-dual, and there was a conversation going on about something. And sitting in the middle of the table was a glass of water, and the people around, there were several around from different kinds of traditions, including one Zen master, and they were all talking about: is it real? Is this well, the materialistic point of view? It's real, and it's all it. But is it? What is the reality of it? Does it exist separate from my mind? The conception of it, the different perceptions I'm looking at it at, and the conversation went on. The Zen master said nothing, and eventually they turned to him and say, "Well, what do you have to say about this?" To which the Zen master simply picked up the cup, took a drink, set it back down. Cut right through the nonsense of the mind. Because to the Zen, it's neither real nor not real. Those are artificial characterizations. It's neither dual nor non-dual. We call this non-dual inquiry and non-dual satsang, and I have to simply just kind of distinguish that there's a different perspective from just describing everything discursively. But you don't have non-dual without dual. It too is a discursive distinction that doesn't really exist. Get it away, and what do you got? What is this? This is this. It's a way to begin to break the addictive habit of thinking all the time, and believing that somehow my knowing of it conceptually is really knowing it. Oh, you continued. I mean, it's like going to a live sports game. At first you miss the commentator, but then you discover you can see much more of what's actually going on without some guy blabbering all over. Yes, that's right. And that is their job, right? That is their job. In all of media, the worst thing in the world is dead air, right? I don't do meditations on my radio show because I would have too much space of dead air, and in radio you simply can't have that. Same thing at sports events. I mean, they just got to go on and on, right? There's the play-by-play, and then there's the color guy, and then there's somebody else who's going to throw a little stuff in there. But when the guy's not blabbering on and on, which is simply drawing attention to a particular point of view, that's all. I mentioned this before. When I go to an art gallery, I don't go on the tours. Right? I don't go, and I don't get that little device where I can listen as you go by each one of the paintings or sculptures or something. It tells you about it. I'm not really interested. I go and sit with the object of art, and I feel it. I take it in. And every now and then a tour will go by, and they'll say something about it, and I'll hear something, and I'll notice something. Oh, I didn't notice that before. And then they'll move on, and I'll sit there. When I lived in Florida, I made an annual pilgrimage to the Dali Museum in St. Petersburg, which is the second largest Dali museum in the world, oddly enough. 6 of his 12 great masterpieces, the huge things that he did, are there. And I would sit in front of them for half an hour, 45 minutes each, right? Sometimes I'd just sit 2 hours in front of one, and I would just kind of take it in. And I just, the little detail, the stuff that would come out, and you go, good Lord. And you just be in awe at the wonder of it, right? But if I just went on the tour, you're there, and you go, oh, this thing, oh, isn't that interesting? And on they go, so you got the facts and figures, but not the juice. Which actually leads me to the question that was in between yours. What does beauty mean for you? That. Beauty is truth. How do you describe beauty? We say the sunset is beautiful. Yeah, why? I don't know. It is. The plant, I've got a plant sitting here, you can't see all the plants behind me, they're beautiful. I don't know. It's one of those things you can't conceptualize. Be it a piece of music or a piece of art or a piece of nature or a human face or a child or a dog. It's visceral. It's just something. Sometimes the beauty is so much I hyperventilate. I can't handle it. My body just can't handle the energy of it. But it's truth. Beauty, truth, love, soul, they're all the same. Right? It's life. It's the juice of life. And the fact that there is beauty is just a mind blower. The fact that such a thing even exists and that we recognize it. And that's something about beauty and truth that has to be realized. The tree doesn't see its beauty. We do. There's something in us that it's our job to see the beauty of all things. The dog doesn't see its beauty. It's just being a dog. It's just woof woof, right? What is it about the consciousness that has manifested in the human being that allows us to be in awe of all creation? That we can even see such a thing as beauty. Yeah, it's an indescribable thing, but I have to say it's love. When I feel beauty, I feel love simultaneously. You love that picture. You love that person. You love that piece of music. You love that book. You love that job, right? It's just an indescribable thing that you know. So for me, it means everything. It means consciousness itself. It means the meaning of life. It means the truth of a thing. And we hope that helps, Milo. I hope that gives you something to work with. If you need one, maybe you're just asking. I don't know. Robbie, need help in managing guilt coming. Not from my own actions, but getting exposed to spiritual techniques, habits that are way past my comfort zone, but are predicated as obligatory to being good. Kind of a spiritual version of the 10 Commandments. Yeah, thou shalt not, thou shalt only eat tofu, thou shalt not pray, thou shalt only meditate. Every system tends to make its rules. You wouldn't have a system without the rules. Which is why I love non-duality, because it's not a system. It's not a teaching. It's not a philosophy. It has no rules. It only points. Okay? And I have so much confidence in the intelligence and beauty of the individual that I know when somebody sees something for themselves, I don't have to make a rule. I don't have to define for you what is good behavior, what is loving, what's the kind thing to do. I don't have to, right? But if I can point you to yourself, you'll find the kindness. You'll find that capacity for discrimination that sees all by itself what the best way in any given moment is, given all the options, right? And sometimes the ideal option isn't present, so you simply have to do what you have to do. But yes, some spiritual traditions can be extremely strict, almost fundamentalist. And you know, in fundamentalism, you're even afraid of your thinking. If you have a bad thought, oh my God. You flog yourself. I looked upon her with lust. Oh. Is it kind, right? Is this rule kind? Is it setting me against myself? Is it showing me how to be present with myself and thus come to an inner moral freedom that allows me to choose, and the freedom to maybe choose wrongly, experience the consequences of my choice, and thus learn what the right choice is, right? This is my argument with all of the morality of the fundamentalists, and especially in the Abrahamic religions, the imposed morality, and that somehow God wants us to just be obedient and not know why. What's the best way to know why? Well, do it, experience the consequences, and then you'll know why. I do this, it hurts. Oh, that's why you don't do it. Right? Or I do this, it hurts somebody else. I develop empathy. I see the consequences of my actions. I don't do it anymore. That's the self-correcting inner morality that doesn't need anything imposed from the outside. Now that said, if it is a genuine spiritual practice, there's some discipline to it, right? There is some watching your own thinking, right? It's not oppressive. It's not don't think this, but watch the thoughts. Let your natural discrimination discern. Where are these thoughts originating from? Is this thought or action or feeling? Where's it coming from? Is it coming from my traumatized child? Is it coming from a sense of an unfulfilled desire? Is it emerging out of my true self? That's an inward. Only you can go there, right? But to be willing to be present enough to ask that question and look and not assume is a bit of a discipline. That's a bit of a spiritual practice. You know, it's not the same as you must sit for 2 hours a day in the forward lotus position, wearing particular clothes, and don't move, and you can't get up to pee, right? That's going to guarantee nothing. Anything that is simply an attempt to control your behavior is not going to yield any value spiritually. I don't care what it is. That's why Christ said love was the fulfilling of the law. And it got him in a lot of trouble. Oh, you're going to have to break the law of Moses? He says the law was made for man, not man for the law. And if you love your God and love your neighbor as yourself, you will fulfill all of the commandments. He said love is the fulfilling of the law, not the canceling, not the throwing away of it. If I'm filled with love, am I going to steal from somebody? Am I going to murder somebody? Am I going to bear false witness against them? You know, am I going to create other gods? Am I going to take that which is pure and beautiful and adulterate it? Am I going to lie? Am I going to steal? It's impossible for the loving heart to do those things. When there is no love, these rules have to be applied to keep a society from falling apart. But if that's all there is, it'll eventually fall apart because those rules will be bent, because the energy, the heart isn't really willingly embracing them and seeing anything. They're not written in the heart. They're written in the laws and imposed. That's the world we live in. It's a legalistic world. So let go of the guilt. Right? What is the spiritual techniques? They're way past your comfort zone. You need no technique to be who you are. And I'm glad you're here in Satsang. You don't need a technique to be who you are. You simply need to look in the right place. It's not, awakening, enlightenment is not the reward for good behavior. It is not the brass ring, right? It is not the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's a realization that you have always been the self. And that realization itself is not a reward for anything. It is simply a willingness to look. That's all it takes, a willingness to look. And that's not a technique. That's not a discipline. That's not somebody forcing you on it. And we all come by quite naturally. You know, when I've had enough suffering, I've had enough disappointment, I become receptive, to the voice that says, look here, just look here. I'm not going to tell you to do anything. No rules, no more of that. No more commandments, no more guru, just look. And look in you. Not out there, not to somebody else, but in you. Look at you. It is so self-affirming. So hopefully that helps, Robbie. Dave and Elaine, we recognize that suffering arises when we forget or overlook our true nature, and attach or identify with the content of experience. Peace and happiness is our true home. Problems appear to arise when we stray too far from it. However, in reality, one can never stray from our true self. As always, true self, as we are always this. It's just the illusion of separation suggests this. Thank you for guiding us home. Oh, you're welcome. Yes, perfect. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. As always. As always, you guys. You so get it. Yes. For a while, we'll find the sense of self kind of re-identifying with content. But once you become sensitive, you begin to feel it. That feeling, something not being off, that's the discontent, that is suffering. That's dukkha. Right? The more sensitive you are to that, the more you go, ooh, I'm off. Okay, I'm off somewhere. Let's just kind of pull back to center. Let's kind of withdraw for a second, and let's get back to center. And then it isn't even a problem anymore. It's like, oh my God, I'm suffering. Let me get out of suffering. It becomes, oh look, I'm not feeling that fullness. What happened? Where am I getting distracted? It becomes a self-correcting mechanism. And now notice it's not critical. It's not like a sin, right? It becomes a way sign, right? It becomes part of the process of redirecting our energy. So that even it helps with Robbie to hear that, because even the things where suddenly you find yourself in the discomfort, you go, oh, okay, this isn't a problem. I haven't done anything wrong, right? Somewhere I missed the mark. I missed the boat here. Okay, let's take a couple steps back. Let's recenter myself where I am, where I really am. Recognize that I can never be anything else. This is the revelation. You cannot be anything other than what you are. Even intellectually, it goes, yeah, of course, A equals A. Ta-da! Right? Basic algebra. So beautiful. Thank you, guys. Martin, hi there. Is it all just a dream? Have a great day. The dream is a metaphor, right? Don't start thinking of it as a literal dream, like you're sleeping somewhere right now and you're going to wake up. And people say that. This is a dream and I'm going to wake up when I die, right? It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for how we can create circumstances and conditions and ideas in our minds, believe that they are an actuality, and that belief being as strong as it is, then actually creates the experience of that. a belief really accepted into our mind. And I'm not talking about something, what's the word I'm looking for? And not like an intellectual belief, right? Which are really, there's no emotional content or traumatic energy associated with it. So those are easy to like just, oh, that's not true, and you throw it out. It's the deeper kind of things that have actually created the way in which we see the world, the way in which we experience the world, the filters through which all of the events of life are coming through and being distorted by the time they get to the cognizing part of ourselves. Right? That layer is the belief. And so you will be experiencing life through that filter and not as it actually is. And this is what the metaphor of the dream is referring to. And that it isn't real, right? It is a misinterpretation or an illusion. That life is actually like this, quite harmonious. But because of our experiences, we've created these filters that have narrowed the picture down, filtered out the other stuff, and therefore made our experience appear to conform to what this belief is. Like our dreams at night are completely subjective and self-created. They're all a perception, right? Nobody in the dream is actually there talking to you. They may look like people you know, but the people you know aren't in the dream talking to you. It's you. They're like almost like puppets, right? That look like your friends, and yet they're in your dream and they're talking to you, but they're not talking them. They're talking your words. All of it is you. And so using that metaphor, you recognize that everything you're experiencing is you. These filters that have been created, not consciously. Nobody creates these things on purpose. Oh, I think I'm going to make this. I'm going to put this in place that's going to make my whole life look horrible. Nobody does that. It happens through our just experience, our conditionings, the traumatic stuff that happens to us, the wounds, all of these things shape a particular way of looking at things. And once that kind of gets set into the nervous system, everything appears to conform to that, because it's just very good at filtering out what contradicts it and amplifying what confirms it, because that's the nature of the belief at that level. It's a self-protective mechanism. So our job then is to see that this is a filter, that this isn't the reality. And that's what the awakening is, right? You're beginning to awaken that what you thought was the reality was a distorted version of reality created by all sorts of experiences that we've had. And so the dream then is a good metaphor for how you're experiencing something that's not really there. Even recognizing that you're experiencing something that isn't actually there is an open door, right? It's like, oh, I am dreaming. I am experiencing something that really isn't there. Okay, what is there? Just that question alone begins to break the belief down. It creates a different environment in which the belief can begin to basically self-correct itself. It starts letting in other information. And before you know it, the whole thing will just kind of right in front of you. So I hope that helps. I am seeing now all of the, I like your question, Robbie, says Mary, but who also says hello, and now no sound. Now I'm through the whole section of sound. You liked my mime? I can't actually do mime, but all right, no sound, no sound, no sound, no sound. Maybe this for us to understand with our hearts, that what our senses. Oh, I should say that. Yes, I did that on purpose. That was just my brilliant teaching. I'm just asking you kind of just absorb it. No, I messed up the controls over here. That's what's happened. Okay. Sue, I didn't know we were in for a silent satsang. Yes, this was a silent retreat today. A bit louder? Oh, I'm pushed up as far as I can get, folks. Oh, wow, very funny. Problem is, G is not going to remember all the words to repeat them. No, they're gone. They're just off in eternity now. Joyful noise day to you, G and friends. Love from sunny, hot Vancouver. Hi, Patricia. Happy Father's Day. Great. Hey, he's delivering the highest teaching, guys. Silence. That's a little too high for us. Still, I guess, but it's not very intentional, presumably. Lovely. You guys are so forgiving. You're so forgiving. Lovely. Thank you. Oh, let's see. Naraskaun from a Facebook user. Much love from Germany. Oh, Steffi. Hi, Steffi. So good to see you. Got sound again. GP is sponsored by Audible. You guys are great. What is yin yang, says Tina Elaine Lohman Peterson. Yin yang is just a generic term to specify the opposites of things, right? And the yin yang symbol, all white on one side, all black on the other, but there's a dot of black on the white side, a dot of white on the black side. It is the generic term for the flow of opposites. And without the opposites, there is no being. There's no life. There's no experience, right? For night there has to be day. For light there has to be dark. For male there has to be female. This is without that, there is no experience whatsoever. And so the term yin-yang is simply the generic expression, a word that means all things dual, right? So we talk about masculine and feminine, light and dark, up and down, that sort of thing, which are specifics of it. But if I just want to refer to just the nature of the dual, non-dual, is yin-yang. Because there is the yin and the yang and the yang and the yin. There's the masculine and the feminine and the masculine. So that's what it stands for. And notice it's a constant flow. It is not ever static. It's never completely one or completely the other. It is always like this. And when we recognize that we are this, I am neither the yin nor the yang, but both of them are forever flowing through me, I am forever flowing on them, then I take my true position in what we could regard as the non-dual essence of it, which cannot be put into words, but without the yin-yang could never be known. This is how the one knows itself, because the one divides itself into two, you might say, because that's simply the nature of it. So I hope that helps you there. Tina, yeah, good. Facebook, I guess that's Steffi. Hello, everyone. What does channeling mean, and does it really work? Thanks. My experience of seeing people channel is that much of what comes through is actually quite wise and useful. So I don't really have much of an argument with what comes through. Not always. Some of it I think is tainted. I've never heard pure duality, non-duality expressed through channeling. Yet at the same time, the sage, the one who is awake, realizes that not one single word or thought or feeling comes from a separate self. Now, when I identify myself as a separate self, and there's this a flow of wisdom coming through me that I can't quite, that seems so outside of me, I will think I am channeling something else. And then I will even give it a name, and I'll think of it as yet another being or a consortium or, fifth dimension kind of thing, right? Because my sense of self being limited and finite, I can't imagine that this wisdom is actually originating in me. But if it's wise, if it's genuine wisdom, I don't care what mouth it's coming through. It's all got to be coming from the same place, because wisdom in its essence is one. Otherwise, I couldn't recognize it. There can't be two wisdoms. It can have an infinite number of ways of expressing itself, but the essence of it must be one, right? You could say the same thing about Mozart. 3 years old, he's writing stuff. His first opera was at like 7, right? He would just write without edits right onto the paper. That would be channeling, right? But we don't see it as such. We think of it as his genius, right? And he didn't see it as being coming from some other place. Beethoven, interestingly enough, did recognize a divinity in it. He did kind of recognize the strange nature of it. And being somebody who wrote music and has heard music, I can verify it's like, where the hell is this coming from? You can't pinpoint it. One time I used to think it was God, and the more I, learned about all of that, well, what the hell is that, right? So the source of wisdom is never the one speaking it, right? In that sense, I'm channeling, right? The sense of a person here, is not is no more the source of what wisdom is being expressed than the radio is source of the song that you're hearing. A little kid, you want to look inside the radio to find the singers, right? They're not in there, right? And the radio is not a sentient entity, right? Because this body is moving around and it's human, and people believe themselves to be a person, they project a personhood on this body, as if this body is somehow cooperating with the wisdom. Folks, there's nobody here. There is no person here. This body is no more a sentient form, a sentient being, than the radio is. Right? Everything is originating from the one source of all true knowledge, which would be the one essential being, the one beingness, the one love, the one mind, the one spirit. Right? It is all one. Whether it manifests itself in oneness, or it manifests itself in wisdom, or it manifests itself in love or beauty, its source is the same. Now, if I still am laboring under the idea that I am a person, then I will think of it as, inspiring thoughts are coming to me from somewhere, and then I am expressing them out, in words to you. I could even say they're a channeling, and I could even imagine where they're coming from God or a divine being, or the angel Megatron, or whatever Ultron, or whatever. It's coming from a fifth dimensional being, or it's coming from Abraham or Bashar, or what I don't know all the names of these guys, right? One could see that, right? But the reality is it is simply spontaneously arising out of the infinite wisdom that is all around us all the time. It isn't coming from anywhere. It is here, and in this moment it is manifesting, and it's appearing as, this guy sitting in this chair with the mouth moving, but there's nobody here speaking. The energy that is producing the impulse to speak, vibrating the chords, making the words, putting it all together, grabbing the metaphors, right, is not a person, is not this person. Certainly not GP, which is just the name of this, somebody gave this form, right? There's not actually anybody here, right? So it isn't the value of the information that would be coming through a channel that I completely deny, right? I've heard a lot that is an enormous value, right? It is oftentimes our practice is way ahead of our theory. What we think is happening is not what's actually happening. It's not that it isn't happening. It's just not what we think it is. And this pretty much covers everything, right? If you think there's some guy here, spewing stuff, you're wrong. There isn't. What's actually happening is your inherent wisdom is revealing itself to you in a way that you will accept it. But it's all coming from you. Does that help? I think that was Steffi, unless it was a different Facebook user. Oh, I'm just getting to the point now of where I gave my initial talk about the Divine Father and all that. Lisa Hip, I am both the feminine, masculine, life-giving and protection, but I wear the female form. I've been told many times I should be a man. You're fine the way you are. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I think it's it's actually quite a reduction for us to classify any quality. Masculine and feminine is simply the form through which it is being expressed. Like it's a flute or a piano, an electric guitar and acoustic guitar. They're just a different form. The energy is the same, right? The energy itself is neither masculine or feminine. It takes on that form to be given expression. So you and I could say exactly the same thing. Because I've got a lower voice and I've got, testosterone running around, it's going to look like this. You say the same thing, and I'll have a higher voice, it'll have that kind of energy. It's like, that doesn't mean we can't enjoy the form. I like this form. It's fine. I enjoy it, and I enjoy the fact that it gets to enjoy the feminine form, right? But that's not what I am. It's not what you are, right? What we are is the consciousness that is beyond gender. But we wouldn't know the consciousness. We wouldn't be able to experience it were it not for what we call gender. I hate when people put man and woman in this blatant box. Amen. Amen, sister. Hello, GP. Hello, Dale. Oops, hello, GP and fellow humans. Hello from Denmark. Happy Father's Day. What a beautiful meditation when the sound came. Thank you, GP. You're welcome. Penny, hello, everyone. And Sifu, I'm late. Did I miss something? No, I forgot to turn the sound on for the first, 7 minutes or something like that? Okay. What is awareness? So many definitions and even said that it cannot be put into words. What's your simple definition explanation for awareness for us to understand it clearly and see it in our daily life? Thank you for that question, Jay. I will be happy to do that. Just, what is hearing my words right now? Are you aware? And if you weren't aware, could you hear my words? That's it. What's hearing my words right now, that point of cognition, that's it. It isn't a definition. There isn't an explanation. I'm not going to talk about it. You're it. Would you have any other experience if you were not aware? So it is your primal, absolutely baseline experience, isn't it? It's there all the time. It's never not there. Even when you're in deep sleep, it's there. It's aware of deep sleep, right? Every thought you have appears to awareness. Every feeling to aware. Every sensation. The entirety of your experience, right, completely depends on that awareness. Right? Are you aware of my words right now? That's it. And the awakening is simply when you recognize that awareness is not an attribute of something. It is what you are. You are that. And everything else is experienced by that. So pure awareness is simply you without referencing anything else. Just the simple, direct, obvious fact, I am aware. My chair's gotten all sort of squeaky all of a sudden. Okay? But you heard the squeaks. The squeaks registered. Right? That's awareness, right? It really is that simple. People want to really complicate it, and like it's this cosmic event, and it's like, no, it's you. It's what's hearing my words. Simple as that. Does that answer it for you, Jay? Did I get it clearly and simple enough so you could like see it in your daily life? You wouldn't have a daily life without it. See, it's like the fish in the water, right? There'd be no experience without it. But we're so focused on the experience that we don't notice the fact that the experience is happening in front of awareness. And if there was no awareness, there'd be no experience, right? So every experience is awareness. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Does that do it for you, man? Please let me know. That's just so important to get this so simply. Alessandra, hello, hello, hello. There's Hendrik, Lake Constance. Alessandra's in Monterey. Andy BB. Hey, GP, I love the patron portal on the site. Thank you so much. Love from Malta. Oh, another person on Malta. I have 3 on Malta now. Wonderful. Wonderful. And yeah, those of you who would, thank you for telling me that too, because let me put this up there. Those of you who would love to help me continue keeping this on the air and free, because it does cost me to do it, please come and join my patron program. It's right there, gpwalsh.com/patron. I do post things up there. I will be refreshing excerpts from Satsang. There's a 10% discount on classes. I'm going to start in July. I'm going to start doing a monthly Satsang on Zoom, where we can actually talk for the patrons, just for the patrons. I'm asking people who were on Patreon, who are supporting me, to move over, because I'm not really liking the policies at Patreon anymore. And it's only $15 a month. And it really makes a huge difference for me. It already has. I've got a couple of dozen people there that it's really making a difference in helping me keep this going. I realized Satsang has now been going on. My regular live Satsangs, this is 4 years now I've been doing this. And it is my intention to keep doing them until I drop. So thank you for mentioning that, Andy, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. I am going to be refreshing the material there soon. It's actually provided me enough money to hire somebody to make excerpts of the video for me, which actually takes me like 5 hours a week. So I've got a couple people to help me that are going to pick out the excerpts, somebody else to actually excerpt them. So it's already made a difference. So thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And there's the link if you want to join into the fun. So Playan, beautiful gem meditation. Thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. Facebook user, relationship, a shared awakening and freedom of both, and so on and so on and so on. Sun in. Yeah, that's what it is. It is the love, the intimacy, the sweetness, the physical contact and all of that. But that needs something to sustain it, to give it a higher purpose, something to, an organizing principle around which it can really root itself. And the ultimate goal of human life is freedom, is the freedom from the illusion of who we thought we were. And if that is the goal of both humans' lives intertwined, that will make the relationship last a lifetime. Oh, I'm getting a message here that's saying having trouble streaming to Facebook. Keep trying. It resolved. So it looks like on the Enlightened World Network that somehow we got disconnected. I'm sorry about that. I have to go in later and make a little quote about it. They're trying to reconnect, but anyway. Facebook compassion is not required. It's not a requirement. It just happens. Music for pets. Hey GP, beautifully explaining conscious awareness as always. Question about fear. My friend has a fear of spiders, even though in England we don't have dangerous ones. I've tried to explain from non-dualism perspective, but the penny's not yet dropped. Can you add anything about this? Thank you so much. Much love to you always. There's a lot of phobias. According to psychology, phobias are not curable. Somehow an association between the spider and something in childhood happened so that the spider now is associated with a deep fear. For things like that, I actually recommend EFT. It's extremely powerful at bringing the nervous system to a point where it can recognize the nature, the association, and allow it to break. I've worked with people on certain problems, approaching simply by a meditative state, more non-dual, and found couldn't quite get there, and so I would use tapping instead. And in the tapping, the nervous system had opened up. It began to fall. The presenting symptom began to fall away, and so it's to try to simply explain it in non-dual terms isn't always the most effective thing when you're talking about something that requires some kind of therapeutic work, right? So this isn't primarily therapeutic. It has a therapeutic effect, but it's primarily existential. And so I'm not the least bit averse to using some energy healing techniques, which I do, and when the time calls for it. Because remember, our motivation in the pursuit and seeking of the ultimate spiritual state of awakening is to end suffering. If you keep that foremost, your heart will remain open to whatever the moment requires. And sometimes it will be a deep, penetrating, Vedantic explanation or inquiry, right? To see that there is no one who is afraid of the spider. It is simply a fear in the nervous system. There isn't someone with a phobia, right? Because there is no person. There's no addict. There is addictive behavior that is held in place by the belief that I am that. I am phobic. I am addictive. But there's not actually a person there. That creates a level of separation that then the central energy that was holding that behavior together has been removed. And with just a little bit of help, it will begin to dissolve itself. Because that which was sustaining it isn't there any longer. But it's not often that somebody is in that circumstance can immediately begin to see the unreality of the person. In which case, I'll just go back and tap, right? I'll do whatever I need to do to bring an end to suffering. Having given an end to suffering, to the immediate suffering, I can begin to take them to the place where all suffering can end. And that, of course, is the ultimate goal. But in the meantime, if somebody's hungry, I got to feed them before I preach non-duality at them. That's the way I think of it. Thank you for that, Music for Pets. And much love to you. Serena Shields. Hello, Serena. Have you heard of Bruce Lipton? I have. In his book, Biology of Belief, he talks about how when people with DID, multiple personal or disorder, would change personalities, they would lose their allergy to orange juice. Along with this, he reports that a person's eye color changed from blue to brown as their personality changed. Similar to Bruce, there's a biology. Rupert Sheldrake, I love Rupert Sheldrake, by the way, who believes that we receive DNA from morphic fields. He believes that we get our parents' look and behaviors not from DNA, but from these fields. Bruce and Rupert think that whether we are sick or healthy, good-looking or homely is not based on our DNA, but whose eye color changed with belief. He believes the reason you're sick or healthy, good-looking or homely is not based, but our beliefs. His belief also match up with Rupert Sheldrake. I am so glad. I've known this for 50 years, frankly. I've always seen DNA as a concept. It's a conception of the mind. When I was a kid, DNA wasn't even flexible. The idea of gene expression or neuroplasticity, it was the hand you were dealt, period, right? And I've just watched that change over the time, and it's over time. And in fact, the New Thought churches, Science of Mind, Christian Science, Unity, and the Universalist churches, those guys have been teaching this since the late 1800s. It's this idea that it is all mind. It is all our beliefs. And that there's this, the field of energy gets called into existence according to our conventions of thought. Rupert Sheldrake went so far as to refer to the laws of physics not as laws at all, but of habits of nature. It's such a radical view that these guys are rejected by the mainstream. And the mainstream is an ideological point of view, and science has its ideologies as well. Let's see. So yeah, DNA doesn't exist. It's a concept. The body doesn't exist. It's a concept. This may be very radical, and I don't normally talk like this, but since you brought it up, it's a concept. It's an idea. We believe in the person. We believe in a form. We believe in the body, and then we project upon the body certain characteristics. The act of projecting gives it its characteristics. What we call the body is an object of mind, nothing more, and therefore will reflect whatever is believed about it. Boy, this is a huge subject, and I won't get into it right now. Mostly, I don't talk about it simply because for most it's too much, and I've not found a way of using that is directly related to alleviating suffering. It's something somebody can discover for themselves later. If it was possible that insight would make somebody realize that literally every experience they have is created by mind, but not by just the individual mind, but by mind, the general consciousness of humankind is one consciousness. And therefore, you can't just say, well, I don't believe in it, so I'm not going to experience it. The I and the we are intertwined. Matter of fact, there is no I without a we, and there is no we without an I. So the thoughts of all are the thoughts of one, and the thoughts of one are the thoughts of all. So there's this continuum there, right? And I think I've just said about as much as I can say about that. But thank you for sharing that, Serena. And it's extremely gratifying for me to see this popping up. Although both Bruce and Rupert are disregarded and also kind of sidelined by the general scientific community, and both of them are extremely courageous for being willing. I mean, I don't know about Bruce Lipton, but Rupert Sheldrake has had a couple of TED Talks taken down because of the things that he said. Those of you, he's wonderful. He's a beautiful, humble man, and he's a a PhD in microbiology and several things. I mean, he's credentialed, right? So he's worth listening to. Facebook user, understanding what enlightenment is seems to be a journey of itself. Meditate as the enlightened one. Yeah. Understanding what enlightenment is seems to be a journey of itself. You are enlightenment. It all comes back to you. Don't make enlightenment a thing. What enlightenment is self-realization. I realize who I am and who I've always been. And if those words resonate with you, meditate as the enlightened one, you realize that even in our meditations, we are unwittingly creating a separation between ourselves and the very thing that we're meditating for. So when the object of meditation becomes the subject of meditation, consciousness is meditating on itself. This is the Buddha. That is the Buddha. Beautiful. Thank you, Facebook user. Mary, what is your opinion of Rudolf Steiner's work? I find him quite wonderful. A genius for his time, very relevant today. I don't know a lot about him. I mean, I think he was part of this theosophy with Madame Blavatsky at the turn of the century. All of those things, which is why I don't pay any attention to any of the writings from the New Thought anymore, even though they're brilliant. They're too heady. They're just too much. They don't go direct to the point. I want to point you directly to you. Nothing intermediate. I even find the Course in Miracles too heady, right? It was the mid-70s that came out. And I'm just much more simple now. I'm not interested in knowing about you. I want you to know you, right? And the way to know you is direct. Thump. Just thump. Who are you? You are the consciousness that is hearing my words right now. Do you need anybody else to explain anything else to you? Can anybody tell you more about that than you? Nobody's in there with you. It's just you. If anything, any writings or anything, and me included, have any value, it's only because we point you there. Right? Look at you. I can't tell you about you. Only you can discover you. I can just keep telling you where to look. And don't look in a bunch of other explanations. Yes, they can be extremely useful. You know, my time when I was studying that metaphysical stuff was extremely useful for me. It opened up the doors. But eventually, I outgrew it. I went beyond it because it was confining. And I think the theosophy and the various sciences and metaphysical sciences and stuff are in that category. When I finally ran across Zen and Advaita Vedanta, I said, thank God. Right? It was just like, it was just simplicity itself. Right? Like the Heart Sutra, it's just simplicity itself. Pure being, gone beyond, gone completely beyond. And what is beyond? You. It is just you. I am that. Thank you, Mary. Brooke Lynch, Satsang, how do we change a belief or energetic assumption? Well, I love the fact you used energetic assumption, because as far as I know, I'm the only one who uses that term, which means you've been around for a while. Or maybe you're new and just discovered it. You cannot challenge a belief or an energetic assumption directly. Because there's too much resistance around it. The energetic assumption got put in place by the nervous system. First, an energetic assumption is a belief on steroids. It is not a head belief, it's a body belief. Prior to ever having any kind of intellectual or conceptual capacity whatsoever, your nervous system, even in the womb, is developing patterns to be able to survive within the environment that it's in. And really, even before the nervous system is fully developed, there's evidence of this. And I can go into some of the stories, but we're running out of time, so I'm not going to do that. So the nervous system, think of it as an animal, right? There's no consciousness. Well, there's consciousness. There's no intellectual capacity. There's no discrimination. There's no words. There's no language. There's no nothing, right? It is pure being. Now, the animal doesn't have a problem adjusting itself and conditioning itself into the environment that it is, right? Neither do you. Right? So the nervous system conditions itself. Now, the human environment that we get born to is very different than the environment in the wild. And the human nervous system is far more complex than that of any other animal. And so it is developing itself in such a way in which it's going to create all the necessary behaviors to keep you safe within that environment. And any parts of you, even though they're natural to you, that earn the displeasure of the environment, down in the basement they go. So it suppresses a lot of you, amplifies a lot of you, and creates whole different behavioral patterns in order to make sure the body survives. This happens without your participation in the slightest. Now, once it maps the territory and it comes up with the set of behaviors and patterns and the like that work within that environment, because most environments are relatively stable, even if they suck, they stably suck, right? It gets completely implemented into the nervous system as automatic behaviors. That is the energetic assumption, right? It's not a conceptual assumption. The nervous system literally draws a map of reality. This is reality. And of course, for the kid, it is. That is their whole reality, right? They don't know a world outside of that. And then later on, as that world gets bigger, it is subsumed into the basic assumption that this is what the world is like, based on very primitive ideas. This is why we find ourselves dysfunctional in the world. So how do you change that, right? You can't argue with it, right? It doesn't have words, right? These are put into place before you had language, before any conceptualization. So it's not something you can debate. You can't sit down and have a rational conversation with it. It's not rational. So how do I do it? Inner reconciliation. You have to become the creator of the environment. Remember, before, the environment it found itself in was not one of your making. It was whatever your family was like. That's the container. That's like water. You poured it into the container. It took the shape of the container, right? So how do you change it? You change the container. How do you do that? You become the safe environment, right? It took the shape because the environment was dangerous. That is, by dangerous, I simply mean you weren't allowed to be fully yourself. You were cut off from you in certain ways, and therefore weren't allowed to see the light of day. So it became something else, something that conformed better to that environment. Well, you're not in that environment anymore, but unwittingly, we are reproducing that same container. And one of the ways we do that is self-criticism, self-help, trying to fix myself, assuming something's wrong with me. All the self-improvement and personal development. They are all sending this very same message to the nervous system that you got in the first place, meaning you're not okay as you are, you need to become something else. And so it is in that state of resistance. What do? You have to create a safe space. You are not doing self-help. And reconciliation is not self-help. It is self-discovery. You become safe. If you become safe, the nervous system, because it is adaptive by nature, will sense the shift in the environment and begin to adapt to it. The more safe you are, the more it'll adapt. Totally safe, you become totally yourself. And every time it becomes more safe, the energy of defense switches sides and becomes the energy of self-expression. All the stuff that was sent to the basement, that was really you, that wasn't allowed, starts to come up, starts to be there. And you suddenly find resources and gifts and powers you didn't know you had. That, in a nutshell, is how you do it. Whoa, that was the fastest I've ever given the discourse on inner reconciliation, which This week I will start promoting, I am going to start doing a training for people called the Foundations of the Foundation of Facilitation. At an entry level is how to really use inner reconciliation and how to help others with it. That will be coming up, and I'll be doing that with Evan, my senior teacher, for those of you who know who that is. And I have a ton of comments here. Let me see what I'm going to take. I can only take a couple more. Yeah, animals are one of the best Zen master teachers you can have. Be a dog, be a cat. Yep. Meditate like a mountain. That's a Zen phrase. Be the mountain. When you meditate, the mountain just sits there. Marguerite in France. Hello to you. J Deep. Your pointers in Satsang have been helping me really, so thank you for that. I do have 2 questions. If my real nature is awareness, and I happen to be caught in illusion of ego-mind, does it mean awareness is caught in the ego-mind illusion? This is good. Look carefully. Look carefully. Is awareness caught in the ego-mind illusion? Or is the ego-mind illusion appearing to awareness? It's all where you put the I. Are you the awareness, aware of the ego-mind illusion? Even if there's not a conscious recognition that it is an ego-mind illusion, it is an ego-mind illusion, but could that exist? Could it appear if there was not something to which it appeared? That is the awareness that is not ever even the ego-mind illusion. Ever. It doesn't have illusions. Oh my God, if God had delusions, Jesus, we're all screwed. There must be an absolute place of purity. Right? So the ego-mind illusion is an illusion, right? And the subtle and often and difficult thing to understand is the one having an illusion is in the illusion. Awareness cannot be eluded, deluded, lost, broken, corrupted, or tainted. It never suffers and never dies. Mutui Wahid, beautiful. Tina Loman Pearson, I read your name and felt strong energy. Okay. Let's see. She wants you to connect. Tina Aline, what do you want you to connect? Lisa Hip. Also, same thing for you. Okay. JD, is awareness completely neutral to the point that it has no preference of one experience over another? Does awareness even care whether it wakes up in this body, mind, or not? Just look at it. Wouldn't preference be some kind of modulation, some kind of manifestation that would appear in front of the awareness? And if awareness had a preference, wouldn't it mean it would have to reject everything else? And would that also mean that it could create suffering? Does it care whether it's embodied? No. Why would it? Has no vested interest in anything whatsoever. It didn't create this to have the experience. Creation happened because of the nature of awareness itself. It's mysterious, right? It didn't need to. It doesn't need it. Pure being is pure being. It doesn't need anything to manifest it in order to be pure being. Yet, its nature being pure being, it manifests as form. This is the great wondrous mystery. And it will never ever be anything other than that. Happy Father's Day, GP. You're very welcome. The self doesn't give a crap about any individual person of the world. Crap flying. No, John, that's you. The self is love. It loves everything. Projecting onto the self these kinds of characteristics. Right? You hear something like a no preference, and you project, oh, he doesn't give a shit about anything. Right? That's all you, man. That's all you. Of course, love cares about absolutely everything, right? But does not have this judgment that they should be acting this way or they should be acting this way. You know, everybody's throwing crap around, right? It's like, where does that come from? Right? I, for the life of me, do not understand how you draw that from the conversation here and the spirit behind the conversation. Do I act like I don't care? Like I don't give a shit about anybody in the world or any person? When I spend all day, every day trying to alleviate suffering? I have no idea where you get these things come from. Right? But look closer, my friend. Thanks from David and Elaine. Thank you, Alessandra. According to the Jesus story, he had an adoptive father and no biological father. What would you say about calling God Abba in terms of endearment, Daddy? Please share your knowledge about this. The story of the virgin birth is a myth. It originated in, at least the version that we got, that became put into the Bible, actually came from the Egyptian. The virgin birth appears in numerous mythological recounts all over the world. It represents pure being. It represents the spontaneous arising. If you ever have an inspired thought, it's a virgin birth. Where did it come from? Nowhere. Where's its father or mother? Nowhere. You're both father and mother. So the idea of the virgin birth, the damage done when the myths of the Bible started becoming asserted as historical facts, it discredited, right? First off, it discredited all of it, right? And everybody looks at it with, with derision, right? When it's looked at as myth, there's a beauty to it. But he had a father, of course he did, right? We're not even sure he even existed. I feel like he did because the way he speaks comes from somebody who had become enlightened, right? And if he'd been born in India, there'd probably be temples to him, right? Everybody would have known what to do with him. But, in this backward tribe in the middle of the, stuck in the, conquered by the Roman Empire, he wasn't going to make much sense. So, but if we are referring to the essence of our being, to call God Father or to call God Mother, right, is quite legitimate. It's endearing, right? But what is it at its essence, right? It's the source of your being. Right? Whatever you want to call it Brahma, call it God, whatever you like, call it Allah, it doesn't matter. Mary Sykes, Dr. David Martin has been telling us the DNA model is just that, a model and no reality to it. It's very much a theory and a way to understand something in that form of understanding. That's absolutely the case. I don't see anything about, where'd you go? Steiner being involved with Madame Blavatsky, or Blavatsky. I think he calls his teaching, yeah, it's the same around. Yeah, I can have them confused. I'm afraid. I know he had something to do with Krishnamurti and right, and him as the world teacher and things like that. I think it was around the same time. Anyway, I could have that. I could have that all wrong. But yes, there are many people who have recognized that we're building models, and the nature of the mind then is it projects characteristics on the mind, on the model. And then the model becomes the territory. And what we're modeling, we don't realize, is consciousness. We think it's something out there, but we're trying to figure out what it is. And the only difference between science and non-duality, as I say, the whole process is correct, but look here, not there. This is a reflection of here. So what is DNA? Whatever I say it is. What effect does it have on me? Whatever effect I say it has. So hopefully Facebook isn't going to take me off now because I've said something like that. Anyway. Okay. 2:11. Let's see. This is concerning GP's patron program. Grateful for that. It's a really practical idea. It will work for G and us. Let's get together. Make it easier for our great master to do what he is doing so perfectly. Nidus is patron's greet. Thank you, Ava. Thank you for the plug. Thanks, says Playon. Thank you. Thank you. Abdelbu, how to reach a vibration of any thought. I will end it on this. Thought is, all experience is what you could call a vibration. Right? Like red light is a slower vibration than blue light, which is slower than violet light. Okay? So everything experienced is kind of a vibration. Some vibrate as thought, some vibrate as emotion, some vibrate as sensation, and the various kinds of sensation. Light, or the eye is different than sound, and is different than touch. Right? If you're trying to raise the vibration of thought so that you can get something from the environment, satsang's not going to help you. I can show you exactly what the nature of all thought is, and that you are not a vibration. And the idea that I need to get something from the environment in order to be whole, complete, abundant, and all of that, is an illusion that needs to be awoken from. The law of attraction point of view, while there's a lot of good in it, is dualistic in that it makes you and a universe, and somehow I've got to have a relationship with that universe that it brings me all the things I want. This is no different than the Jew or the Christian or the Muslim that believes that God is a creator, I am the creation, and there's a relationship that I have to conform to, and then I will get the blessings. It's the same thing. There is no creator out there. There's no world out there. The internal vibration to aspire to is simply pure love, without any attachment to whether or not it's going to do something for your human life. That makes it spirituality, right? And not a technique. Right? Love is worth pursuing. The vibration of love is worth pursuing for its own sake. Why? Because it's love. Not for what it's going to bring to you. People seek God. They want to know to God for the reward of heaven, which means they don't want God, they want heaven. What if you could have God but no heaven? Ooh, we don't want that. Right? You don't seek truth for the boons that it's going to bestow on you. That's a business deal. You seek it for itself because it's truth. You love truth because it's truth. It is the truth. And beyond which there's nowhere else you can go. So I will leave it at that. Thank you all. Anne says, Happy Father's Day. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you all, to all of you. As always, being here on for Satsang is so wonderful. And yes, please join my Patreon program, gpwalsh.com/patron. That's all there is to it. And now after this is ready, I got to hack the first 7 minutes off when I forgot to turn the sound on. My friends. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. I love you all. Namaste.